Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Tech Tutorial Tuesday. Today, we'll be looking at a couple Excel functions that I use all the time. One of them is text to columns, and another one is called Concatenate. The first function we'll be looking at today is called text to columns. So this function is super useful when you have a list of data like this, and there's either a comma or a space or a dash, some sort of symbol splitting up two different fields essentially. So here I have last name, first name, and they're split up by a column. So what I want to do is I want to split this column into two separate fields, last name and first name. So to do that, I'll go ahead and I'll highlight my data. I'll come up to the Data tab in Excel and click Text to Columns, and that'll pop up this box here. So when you have a separator like a comma or a tab, you'll want to have the delimited option selected, and you'll click Next. And on this next screen, you select what exactly is splitting your data. So like I said, we have commas here, but if it were spaces, we could select space. If it was tabs, we could hit tab. And in the little preview screen here, you'll see when I click comma, it separates that last name and first name fields. So I'll click next here, and then finish, and I have two separate columns. So now what I can do is I can take my last name column and paste it where I wanted last name, and I could take first name and put it where I wanted first name. And you'll notice because at the beginning I had comma space first name, all of my first names now have a space in front of them. So that's really easy to remove. I can highlight all of my data, do Control F, which will bring up the Find and Replace screen. I can go Replace, Find What. I want to find spaces, and I want to replace with absolutely nothing. So when I click Replace All, 5 replacements, you see now that it took the space. It removed it from the beginning of all of my first names. So what I did is I took last name comma first name, and I split that very easily into one column called first name and one column called last name. So now what if I want to take this first name and last name and combine it into one full name? Well, to do that, you're going to use an Excel function called Concatenate. And what Concatenate does is it takes whatever fields you tell it, or words, or spaces, commas, periods, whatever you want, and it'll concatenate them into one string. So to start using this function, you'll do equals concatenate. Like all Excel functions, you'll open your parenthesis, and now you start selecting what you want concatenated. So in this case, I'm going to do a formula so that I don't have to type it over and over again. My first string of text is going to be first name. I'll put a column. My second string is I want a space between first name and last name. So I'm going to open a quote, put a space, close my quote. That'll give me a single space between first name and last name, comma, select my next string of characters that I want, which will be last name, and I'll go ahead and close the parenthesis. Click Enter, and now I have my full name there. If I double click in the corner, or drag down, it'll populate first name, last name all the way down. And just like that, I went from last name, comma, first name to two separate columns, first name and last name, and then I used the concatenate function to merge the first name and last name with a space in the middle. And that wraps up this week's video. Hopefully you learned something new about Excel today, and I'll see you all next week with another Tech Tutorial Tuesday.